If you're a little bit late getting your pet's Christmas photos organized this year, I have a really quick and easy and kind of magical solution for you that you can do with your phone, a cardboard box, and a little lighting panel or some fairy lights. It's really easy to set up. You don't need a whole bunch of external light either. You might want to put a little bit of time into preparing the scene so it's extra Christmassy, but I promise this is going to be super easy. You should be able to get it done in 5 minutes and have something that looks really quite special. Let me show you how it goes. So these are some photos that I created last year or the year before to show you an example. These were done using my camera, and of course I've edited them quite a lot, but you don't have to. You can actually get a really good result straight out of camera. All you're going to need is a cardboard box. I recommend that you wrap it up kind of pretty. You're going to need the top open so that the dog can look inside. You might want to have some ribbon or something a little bit festive just to make it kind of cute. I just used a plain cardboard box for this example because I don't have time to make a Christmas scene right now and make this video for you guys. So you're just gonna have to use your imagination. I figure it's better if I just give you the video with a bad example and you can do a better job than I've done. You might want a Christmas scene, like I said, maybe a Christmas tree behind the dog, some fairy lights, whatever it is you've got. I don't know, take them out to a pine forest. If that's all you've got at hand, go to a Christmas market, whatever. You can take your cardboard box with you and you're just going to want some kind of festive scene in the background. I'm going to show you the finished example that I got with my phone, but these ones obviously I took with a little bit of a Christmas scene in the background, bunch of boxes we wrapped up, fairy lights, all that good stuff. But you can theoretically use AI to generate a kind of festive background for you, but it definitely doesn't do the very best job, as I'll show you some examples on my phone photo in a minute. The other thing you're going to need, and this is probably the most important part of this, is something like this. This is just a really simple LED little light thing. As you can see, it's pretty bright. And this is what we're going to be putting in the box. So when the dog looks in, that light, oh, God, I'm blinded. That light is going to shine on his face just like that. So you can pick these up on Amazon. There's a tons of different brands. I have them in my little Amazon storefront. If you want to support me, feel free to get this one. But pretty much any of them will work. This is the X Pro. I don't know. I barely use it. It's just here. You can also use kind of anything. Theoretically, if I had two iPhones, I could have tried this, but I don't because I only have this one. But theoretically, if you have a friend or a partner or somebody in your house where you can go and steal somebody's phone, you could theoretically turn on the flashlight, put the phone in the box with the light pointing upwards, and you will have the same effect. You could also probably use fairy lights or some other kind of light that fits in the box. It's just a question of whether it's going to be strong enough. Obviously, the stronger the light, the more of that kind of magical light on the face effect you're going to get, because that is in the photo. You don't have to edit it in with something like this, though we can enhance it. So that is pretty much all you need in terms of setup. You don't need any external lights. The photos I'm going to show you that I took with my phone yesterday as an example were done on a very, very, very gray overcast day here in Germany with a small sort of bedroom window that is the only ambient light getting into the room. And in fact, I actually dropped the exposure on the photos on my phone so that it was darker, because then you get more of that light hitting the face look. So let me show you how it is all set up and how it works. And then I can tell you a little bit about the editing, but I really think that you can, if you've set up the scene well, if you have a nice Christmassy scene in the background, I don't actually think you're going to need to edit this much at all. I think most of the magic is going to come from the dog looking into the box. First, I wanted to just quickly show you how this looked last year when I had my full setup. and then I will show you the phone version in a minute. And I wanted to make a couple of quick little notes about what we're doing and even about your camera settings, because obviously in this case I was using my camera to take these photos. So it's really important to understand that we actually don't want a perfectly exposed photo for this whole setup. We're going to need the photo a little bit darker so that the light from the box is doing its job, rather than having the whole scene lit up and that you then can't really see the light from the box. Everything's really bright and we don't get that kind of magical nighttime effect with that light from the box being the strongest light source. So keep that in mind. If you're using your camera, you're probably going to need to either do some kind of exposure compensation where you make the photo intentionally a little bit darker if you're using it on auto mode, which I don't necessarily recommend, and I do have some courses on that, but that is a whole other thing. Or if you're using the photo in manual mode, you're going to want to drop the exposure to a point where it's mostly the light from the box that is creating the ambient light on the dog's face. So as you can see here, I've got my fairy lights in the foreground, I've got my box with the light in it, and I have a helper, but you can do this yourself just by tossing the treat into the box and telling your dog to wait. I will show you that in a minute and talk more about that a little bit, but I'm not going to be giving you a training lesson this time. I just need to point out that your dog is going to have to wait for a second, hopefully looking at the treat in the box before it can get the treat. So that might need to be something that you train your dog to do. Loki is my more difficult one here. You can see he doesn't have a great wait for the treat. He just wants to dive on it because that's what Loki does. But when you see Journey, you'll see that that behavior is a lot stronger. The better that behavior is, the easier your job is going to be in this case, and even better if the dog will look at the box rather than looking at you for a release. So the other thing that you could train here would be a look cue, where you have some kind of target or the treat and you tell the dog look and the dog looks at the treat. But again, that is going to be something that you need to train with your dog beforehand. You cannot just throw a treat in there and tell the dog wait and expect it to know what it's going to do. Anyway, that is a whole separate story. Here we have Journey's turn, so it's going to be the same thing. We drop the treat in, tell him to wait. You'll notice that I've used slightly different like body positions for the dog, getting them to look into the box from a sit with a curve in their body, or getting them to stand there sort of looking down like this. So you can play with how your dog is positioned in terms of getting the best results. And essentially you just want to repeat this over and over until you've got the photos that you want. So that is how it looked last year when I had my full setup and when I was using my camera. Let's now have a look at how it goes with the phone. Okay, so essentially I've got my dog here, I've got my box, I've got my treats to the side, I've got my light, which I am just going to put into the bottom of the box. You'll see that it's pretty dark in my room. You can see the window just behind me there is the only light source that I have. Now here's the thing, we're gonna throw a treat in there, but we're going to ask, and he already knows his job, he's done this before last year, but we're gonna throw a treat in there and we just need him to wait a minute before he eats it. You may need to do some training of this before you take the photos. If your dog is just gonna dive in there, you may need to teach them a wait command first, which is a whole other video, but as you can see, Journey puts his head in, he looks, I take the photos. Now that was too bright. You're not going to get that kind of magical effect with the darkness in the background. So what I want you to do is tap on your screen and hold and just drag your finger down to adjust the exposure. As you can see, I'm doing there. That is going to kind of darken out the background. I probably could have gone even darker than this, but I was a little bit scared and I was like, you know what, it's fine. And that's literally it. And then you get these photos like this. Which you can see here. So this was the first one where it's too bright. Can you see how it doesn't have that same magical effect as the other ones? Whereas when I drop the exposure, now we have that kind of look of the light really shining up there. The background is a little bit darker. That will be easier for us to darken in editing later as well. And we really get that look of the light shining up out of the box onto the dog's face. Like I said, this was really fast. I think I only took those 4 or 5 photos, but you could definitely play with your angle more. You could get your phone or camera a little bit lower. You could change the dog's body angle a little bit. You could try and get them looking into the box a little bit. If you tell them to get the cookie that's in the box, you could take the photo as they really stick their head in. Personally, I like it when you can see their eyes a little bit when they're looking down like that, but there's a lot of different effects you can get depending on where their head is or not. And that is kind of the basis of how the photo comes together. As you can see, it's really, really simple. And then of course, you can jump into editing. So I popped this one in Photoshop already. Basically, I just selected the background and then I did generative fill where I put in a prompt like a Christmas scene or a Christmas tree. I was trying to find the best option. As you can see, I got variations of a tree. They're not bad. It's definitely more festive than what I had. If I'd bothered to wrap up the box like I did last year, it also would have been way better. Maybe put a fluffy rug underneath or something like that. But Photoshop's generative fill you can definitely use. I don't think that generative fill would be available on the free version, but it definitely is on the paid version. Otherwise, you can probably do some pretty simple edits to make this a little bit more magical as well without necessarily using Photoshop, and maybe with just using the free version of Lightroom. So let me see if I can drop another one in here, and I'm just going to open up Camera Raw, which is essentially Lightroom. So the thing with the free version of Lightroom is that you can only adjust the whole photo. So I could make the whole thing darker, but that is obviously going to make my subject darker, which is not ideal. If you've seen my editing using Lightroom video, you'll know I'm a big fan of using the masking features where it can say, hey, Lightroom, can you just affect the background? And then I could kind of create this little bit of magic like this. Playing with like the temperature could also be a really good way to create a little bit more magic. If we warm it up, it's going to have a warmer, Christmassy, festive vibe. We could maybe just see, we wouldn't want to put the shadows up because that's going to bring more light into the background. I really think your best bet is always going to be to adjust, to edit selectively, which also means we can do things like making a radial filter on the dog's face and maybe even adding a little bit more light there, maybe adding a little bit of warmth there just to give it that bit of a magic look. I have some issues going on back here in the background. So what I could probably do would be to make like a linear gradient. Again, go and watch my Lightroom video. It's here on YouTube. I also have a ton of tutorials in my membership for pro members. So if you like editing tutorials and you want to go further into Lightroom and Photoshop, there are so many tutorials in there. This was not meant to be an advertisement video, but you know, you got to plug your business while you're here. And if you're going to learn something, then maybe you want to come and learn more things, because I have hundreds of lessons in my learning journey membership. You can find it on my website. I'm going to subtract my subject from this mask so that he doesn't get affected by this. And then theoretically, we could just sort of almost darken out the background a little bit here. There's a little bit of an issue with the line, but if I just add this effect to the ground here, maybe just darken out his back a little bit, that's going to help him fade into the background. I'm obviously doing this extremely quickly, so you might want to take your time and make sure it's a little bit more precise. But as you can see, we can still kind of see him, but we've gotten rid of the background a little bit. The ground down here is maybe now a little bit too dark for me because it's like the box is just floating on the floor. So I'm just going to subtract some of my earlier effect from that, see if that helps us. It doesn't. So potentially we could brighten that up just a little bit, just so we can see that there is a floor just because of the black background being there. But also it was on my non-slip flooring, like my gym mat flooring, which is black or gray. So it's possible that, yeah, you can see like this is the black square, this is the gray square. If you had this on a lighter floor, wood floor, fluffy rug or something like that, that would look a lot more natural. But if you had a Christmas tree in the background, you probably wouldn't want to blacken out the background like I did. I just wanted to get rid of it because it's ugly. If your box had a ribbon or something like that, this would look way prettier than it is. You need to use your imaginations at this point to see that this would be a cool photo if I had bothered to put in the effort to actually make it festive. The other thing that you can pretty easily do would be to grab an overlay. You can find free ones, you can find paid ones on Etsy, like whatever you need to do, do it. Essentially, you could get some kind of sparkles like these guys. I don't know, I'm picking one at random here. Let's just see what we get. If you just search for like free Christmas sparkle overlay Photoshop, you'll probably find them. This is essentially just an image file. We just need to change the blend mode to screen to make that black background disappear. Then we can pop it in the box. we can put a mask on there, and then we can maybe just get rid of this bit here so that it looks like it's in the box. If I was actually taking my time, I would do a much better job, but I know everybody's attention spans are very short these days, so I'm trying to do this as quickly as possible. And then you can see he has some magic coming out of the box. Again, use your imaginations. Put a Christmas scene behind, put a ribbon on the box. Ba-da-ba, you have a festive photo. Literally took less than 5 minutes to take the photo. I've been talking now for 8 minutes on this part of the video, so it's taken less than 5 minutes to edit the photo. And I think that if you had a little bit more festivity in the setup, this would be a really magical photo that you can put on your Christmas cards, whether you're doing them last minute or if you have a little bit more time to prepare because you're watching this next year instead of the 10th of December, then you will have something that is a little bit special, a little bit unique, and a little bit more interesting than a dog sitting in front of a Christmas tree. I hope that this very, very fast tutorial has at least given you some ideas. I know I didn't go through these are the settings you need for the edit because your photo is going to be completely different to my photo. It's going to be a different brightness. It's going to have different colors because of the lights in your house or your space or whatever. You're going to maybe have Christmas lights in the background. You're going to want different effects from the photo. So there's no point in me taking it slow and being like, here you need to drop your exposure by this amount. You need to pull up your whites by this amount. You need to put a radial here on the face and pull up the exposure by this amount. Your photo is going to be different than mine, so think more about the effect that you want to create and then the tools that you have to create that effect. Again, check out my other videos, and then you can take that photo in whatever direction you want. If you happen to use this technique and you post it to social media, please tag me at Inspiration Photography. I love seeing it when people use my ideas and my tutorials. And then I know that you've been enjoying them. If you want more dog Christmas ideas, I have a whole free mini course. It's called the 12 Days of Dogmas. I'll put the link down below in the description so you can check that out. Otherwise, there's heaps more information about all kinds of photography things, pet photography things on my blog. Or if you want to go even more deeply into everything that is taking photos in my style, then definitely check out the Learning Journey membership. This will probably be it for me until the new year, and then I have some videos coming for you on group photos, but please let me know as well in the comments what else you'd like to see in the new year, because I do want to make 2025 my year of showing up on YouTube, so I will need your help for ideas and inspiration to keep me motivated. And that's it. Don't forget to like and subscribe because that is always helpful for the algorithm. And I wish you all happy holidays. And I hope that you have fun creating some magical box images with your furry friends.